Presidency refutes sponsored propaganda circulating across mainstream social media, affirms democracy is not under any threat in Nigeria.
APC holds emergency meeting with defectors, says major opposition parties are gradually dissolving into the governing party.
Federal government hosts post-harvest summit towards reducing losses and food waste in the country.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall be taking a look at reviving cotton, textile and garment industry in Nigeria. The textile industry was once Nigeria's largest employer, second only to the government, and a major player in the manufacturing sector.
You're right, Yere. Unfortunately, factors like inadequate power supply, smuggling of imported textiles, and insecurity led to a decline in the sector.
Indeed, the number of textile mills has decreased significantly, and the sector's contribution to employment and foreign exchange has dwindled.
Similarly, in cotton, Nigeria has a potential for local cotton production. Challenges remain in securing a consistent supply of high-quality raw materials.
However, efforts are being made to revive the industry through government initiatives like loan programs and import duty exemptions.
Yere, developing a strong local supply chain for cotton and other raw materials is crucial for the sector's revival and growth.
Indeed, Demola. Now, the Nigerian government has implemented initiatives to revive the textile sector, including a 100 billion naira loan facility through the Bank of Industry.
You're right, Yere. And in addition to import duty exemption, certificates are being issued to promote the import of machinery, spare parts, and textile adjustment tax levy being implemented with a percentage remitted to the Bank of Industry for the sector use.
Experts suggest that a focus on quality and sustainable practices is needed for Nigeria's textile industry to become a major player in the global market. And so today on Good Morning Nigeria, we shall focus on reviving cotton, textile and garment industry. Welcome to the program. I'm Ian Ray John.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. Thanks for joining us for this morning. We are reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. Shortly, we'll bring you the highlights of the morning news and later newspaper review. Let's join Dennis Adeguloye for the morning news. Hello, Dennis. Good morning.
Good morning, Ademola and Yenre. Good morning, Nigeria. The presidency says, contrary to the false claims in the sponsored propaganda materials in circulation across mainstream and social media, democracy is not under any threat in Nigeria. In a statement by the Presidential Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the presidency declared that they have read the alarming claims orchestrated by opposition figures, some alleged partisan human rights crusaders and emergency defenders of democracy, over recent defections of key members of opposition parties into the governing All Progressives Congress. The case in hand mentioned by the Presidential Advisor is the defection of the Delta State Governor, Sheriff Oboriwori, the former governor and vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the last election, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, and the principal political actors in Delta State. While declaring that accusations that the administration is moving towards authoritarianism are baseless and exaggerated, Onanuga pointed out categorically that the opposition cannot blame President Tinubu and the governing APC for their poor organization, indiscipline, and gross incompetence in managing their affairs. As he stated, that democracy is not threatened or undermined simply because politicians exercise their rights of association. The presidential advisor added that Nigerians migrating to the APC and expressing support for Tinubu are doing so out of their free will, based on the belief that the reforms being executed are in the interests of Nigerians and the unborn generation. And the All Progressives Congress says for the first time in the history of the nation's political outplay, major opposition parties are gradually dissolving into the governing party in an unprecedented number. This was during an emergency meeting between the APC governors, the National Working Committee of the party, and some new entrants from Delta State.
They will come together as a family to grow the party and support the government in Delta State for the benefit of our people and members of our great party. So I think we're happy with the development and a big testimony to the fact that APC government in Nigeria is being admired by many, if not all and sundry.
The Department of State Services has successfully recovered a large cache of arms and rescued kidnapped victims across 5 states, including Kaduna and Delta. In Kaduna, the DSS arrested 8 suspected bandits, 22 informants, and several others involved in various criminal activities, leading to the recovery of 5 AK-47 rifles, 1 general-purpose machine gun, 3 rocket-propelled grenades, and about 5,000 rounds of ammunition. 79 kidnapped victims were also rescued. In Delta State, DSS operatives recovered 50 AK-47 rifles and 3,000 rounds of ammunition in Asaba, arresting a serving British Army officer in connection with the arms. Local Ijaw communities have called for a thorough investigation to prevent a renewed conflict in Warri. Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani praised President Bola Tinubu for appointing Oluwatosin Ajayi as the DSS Director General, citing improved efforts against insecurity. Recent operations in Kaduna have resulted in 54 arrests and significant arms recoveries. The federal government has expressed concern over the alarming rise of cyber slavery across parts of West Africa, targeting Nigerian youths in particular under false promises of lucrative job employment abroad, specifically in crypto-related operations. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in a statement, noted that the said youths are trafficked into sophisticated scam operations and enslaved to work in criminal call centers, often referred to as 419 cyber scam factories. There they are forced under coercive and inhumane conditions to send thousands of fraudulent emails, text messages and calls aimed at defrauding victims worldwide. Nigerians are therefore advised to verify all employment offers through official channels and report suspicious cases to relevant authorities for necessary investigation and action to curtail the activities of the perpetrators. It added that the federal government remains committed to protecting Nigerian citizens at home and abroad and will continue to raise awareness about emerging threats to the welfare and dignity of all Nigerians. The federal government plans to implement a system that will significantly reduce post-harvest losses and food waste in the country. This came to light during the second post-harvest summit hosted by the federal government in Abuja.
You see, we are losing close to 3 trillion naira annually as a nation. And up to now, we are yet to solve the problem of post-harvest.
Well, those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola Anyere after these messages.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary health care center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Afam Bogeneka, Ebim Nagara Dimawa Village, Abuja, Nazo Afeba. So Esom Nandi register na NSR government register with my NIN. So government wears them ATM card. Njiwe wete 25,000 naira 3 times. And ega haya mketa baru muru na dem. Eji megoro makamihe. Jikweru mehendozo. Thank you.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Net's Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
The future belongs to the dreamers, to the doers, to those who are not afraid of the side hustle. It's for those who are ready to turn their passion into something big. And to help keep you revitalized and inspired, Top Tea is with you every step of the way. You are made for more. Find your inspiration. Top Tea, big round bags of flavor.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
Does your toothpaste give you complete fresh protection? New Close-Up Toothpaste Complete Fresh Protection takes care of your 5 important oral care needs. It gives you strong teeth, prevents tooth holes, cleans deeply, fights bacteria, and gives you fresh breath. Complete fresh protection from Close-Up.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the naira. Handling the naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the naira. Love the naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the naira.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next is Newspaper Review.
Our newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okolie Ogbaja is here with us this morning. Good morning to you, Chukwudi. Good to see you.
I thought you were going to tell them I'm a chief argument maker. They didn't catch that.
Not at all.
Hello,
Good to see you.
How are you doing?
Very well. How's your weekend?
Oh, lovely. I am bouncing in all the right places.
Nice.
Hello, Debo. How are you doing?
Awesome.
I will explain the mischief in that smile later. Good to see you guys.
All right, so let's get into what the papers have this morning. We'll begin with the Blueprint newspaper. And the Blueprint leads with federal government secures $5.5 billion health investments to train 2,000 personnel yearly. The riders engages Swiss Academy on Pharmaceutical Institute. 22 large-scale projects underway. That's according to Pate. Of course, looking away from that, we have Wiki clamps down on quack hospitals, doctors. That's on page 6 of the Blueprint. Looking above the masthead, NDLEA raids Lagos hotel, recovers over 1 billion naira illicit drugs. And, of course, below the picture story, we have defections, opposition in disarray, democracy strong, alive. That's credited to the presidency. And the riders, strengthening organizing opposition, not president's job, according to Onanuga. Tompolo backs Tinubu for 2027, urges not support. Below that, gunmen abduct 7 in Kwara, police rescue 2. Reforms in oil, gas to improve revenue support budget. That's according to the LCCI, and that's on page 23. In the green strip, we have Tinubu's re-election will reshape political landscape. That's according to AYN. Of course, we have here Governor Sani hails Ajayi as DSS boss Kaduna bandits and gun runners. Of course, one headline I cannot ignore this morning is that of the EPL. It says, for the 20th time, Liverpool crowned EPL champions.
Yes, so
of course.
Yes, I know. Thank God.
Some people are not feeling good this morning, but let's look away from that. Let's see what the Daily Times has this morning. The Daily Times leads with NDLEA raids Lagos hotel, recovers 1.042 billion naira illicit drug consignment, and above the masthead we have Nigerian Army arrest human parts trafficker, drug peddlers in Ogun, and that's on page 2. Below the picture story, we have 16-year-old boy nabbed with gun in Lagos. That's on page 12. You want to see that. And next to that, we have more PDP governors to join APC. That's on page 10. EFCC reiterates warning to Nigerians on Ponzi schemes. That's on page 2. You know what to say, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. And in the red strip, finally, on the front page of the Daily Times this morning, we have kidnappers open fire on travelers, abduct passengers in Zamfara. Not a good one. And, of course, in a red strip. And that's on page 11 of the Daily Times. Demola.
Okay.
I think we should begin with the EPL.
Well, I don't
headline.
have that. I don't have that here.
Maybe you can just frame that quickly. Arsenal in disarray.
This Nigerian newspaper, just by the name tag there, Nigeria targets single-digit inflation, job creation amid global uncertainty. Finance Minister, details on page 15. Tinubu not plotting one-party state, says presidency. Slam critics of defections calls them disgruntled opposition figures, partisan human rights crusaders, and emergency defenders of democracy. The details of that story can be found on page 2. Why FCT minister ordered crackdown on quack doctors, assures of free insurance scheme for pregnant women. Details on page 7. NDLEA raids Lagos hotel, recovers 1.042 billion illicit drug consignment. Details on page 19. Pedestrian bridges turn death traps. Hoodlums take over public facilities littered with feces. Details of that story can be found on page 16. And fortunately, Saka's rise at Arsenal, all about hard work, humbles Immobile. Jokes.
I left active news work about 8-9 years ago, but I still have the penchant for writing wonderful headlines. This is the headline. Arsenal lose EPL trophy to injuries. Liverpool are opportunistic beneficiaries.
That won't pass. The editor has cancelled that. Ademola will frame one before we finish this review.
Anyway, Liverpool make history with second PL title.
Yes. We have written the real headline.
Okay.
You know, it's okay. Let's go to the other issues. We are playing a match tomorrow.
Not plotting.
Now, the thing is this. You know, let me go a little personal. I don't think we're going to embarrass anybody. When I was still courting the woman I eventually married, there was a day she came to my house and spent some time. The mom waited for her, and after some time got worried and met us halfway when I was leading her back home. She was infuriated that the daughter stayed too long at my place. We didn't do anything. Now, Demola, the woman was infuriated, and I said, oh, we have annoyed Mama. He said, my pikin, you don't get problem at all. If yam carry himself go near goat go chop am. What does the PDP expect with the disarray it has put itself in concerning possible poaching by the APC? Demola, na village them train me. Forget all this African Oyibo body. I think that the PDP really shot itself in the foot way back in time and is paying for it now. Please, as journalists, we will always push against any tendency for anyone to suggest or impose on this country a one-party state. But the truth is the truth. Politicians are there waiting on the wings to cash in on your foibles and actions that are not going to help you grow as a unit or as an individual. That's exactly what is happening. APC has not taken a gun and pointed it to somebody's head and said, follow us to APC. Well, we don't want to know the things happening in the backyard, from the background there. We are not in a position to know. So let's not speculate. I think that Nigeria needs to reorganize the polity in terms of attitude towards the ballot. There's one thing I have always pointed out from my own thinking. We need to sit down and readdress our issues as a country. If the APC did not, for political reasons, like the 2014 confab, they need to organize something close to it on their own. Because it's not just in the area of politics that this country needs, rebalancing. It's everywhere. People need to stop shouting that Yoruba man. People need to stop shouting that Hausa man. That Igbira man. There's something about us that has come unstuck. There's so much division in the country at the moment As people said, it started from the last administration mostly and all that. That is their own idea of it. So it's not just politics. Let us rebalance the country and make sure that whatever actions we take will be to the ultimate benefit of the man in the street.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right. So
All right.
that's
Some more stories?
yes, more stories.
Oh, there are.
FCT minister cut down on quack doctors.
Yes, the immediate cause of that is the fate of a pregnant woman who died during a cesarean. And the impression is that it was one being conducted by a quack. You know, let's not mention the hospital somewhere in Durumi and that. I think I will believe more in a process that filters eternally, on a continuous basis, the certification of people who claim to be medical personnel in Nigeria. Let it not be that a fatal accident, such as the one we have just seen, creates the spur to action. That's not how it should be. People should not be allowed to easily infiltrate, a health delivery system with a fake certification, or if they have it at all. So it is good that the FCT minister is taking this action and all that, but we should have an ongoing attitude towards making sure that health does not become unhealthy for people.
And talking about not being unhealthy for people, I like this headline that talks about health investment worth about $5.5 billion. And of course, the federal government intends to train 2,000 personnel yearly.
Yes.
I think that's a good one, for the health sector. If that can be sustained, it would, make the health sector a bit healthy.
And the Swiss Academy is being enlisted in the effort to work on a pharmaceutical institute. 22 large-scale projects underway. These are very, very notable and important. We have made a case of, when you go to the UK, the first thing you hear is NHS. You go to the US, Obamacare has not yet been killed by Trump. That is the amount of interest, concern, attention that is given to health by a serious country. Health first, every other thing later.
So
Well,
must
we
have
say that security and oxygen rank
issue.
above health, So
That's
it's very
true.
important that this is happening and the government is moving in the right direction.
Another very worrisome trend is the fact that every weekend the NDLEA, releases reports of people, places that have been raided and drugs seized, but it never ends. Like, I mean, this week the report says the NDLEA raids Lagos hotel, recovers over 1 billion naira
1.04
worth
of illicit drugs. And then come next weekend, you hear another story, and I'm asking, what's fanning the flame of these drug peddlers? Why would they not just give up this act?
First of all,
They won't give up now.
First of all, no, it's a very lucrative. Maybe after kidnapping, it's going to be.
So is it that they're not being
mentioned.
prosecuted? Is that why they're not? It's not serving as
No,
a
the
deterrent?
preponderance of
Is it that when you just
remember that a warrior sits at the helm of affairs of NDLEA? Remember, Marwa is somebody that does not
Give up.
suffer fools gladly. So if with Marwa there, it is still as bad as this, you can imagine what would happen if we didn't have a very serious drug czar, there in NDLEA. The point is, you're dealing with an addiction. Then you're dealing with a pastime also for people who have a little money too. If you know the people who are sniffing, they are not people who are on the street too. Now, big people.
They're not like you.
What are you trying to say? that I'm a crawler?
Oh,
don't mind it. You see, this Liverpool thing has got in his head. So the point
By the
is,
way, I have a headline for that.
You have a headline?
We would round off with that.
It's okay. So the addiction is itself a problem. You taste it once, you sniff it once, you start sniffing on and on. And rehabilitation later becomes a problem.
Pedestrian bridges turn dead traps.
What?
Pedestrian bridges turn dead traps.
As I was just coming this morning, you know what I said? How could people still be walking under a pedestrian bridge and dodging cars on a very major highway? We have very naughty, bad habits. But in that case, they are really talking about some urchins,
yes,
you know, being close to those pedestrian bridges and constituting a nuisance.
Thank you very much.
That is bad.
Thank you.
Back to my headline. Liverpool claims 20th title, while Arsenal fails to clinch title 21 years after.
Okay, I don't hesitate to write headlines. Liverpool at par with Manchester City over EPL trophies. Arsenal contributed positively to their success.
Thank you. Consolation. Keep consoling yourself.
We need to go. Anyway, the producer says it's time to go.
Anyway, we just have to, draw the curtain here on newspaper review. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
The national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during internment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
When you're low on energy and need a break, give yourself a treat. Cadbury Hot Chocolate. Smooth. Crafted from cocoa, milk, and sugar. Creamy. Chocolatey. Frothy goodness. Rich taste. So satisfying.
Cadbury 3-in-1 Hot Chocolate, the treat you deserve.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
Does your toothpaste give you complete fresh protection? New Close-Up Toothpaste Complete Fresh Protection takes care of your 5 important oral care needs. It gives you strong teeth, prevents tooth holes, cleans deeply, fights bacteria, and gives you fresh breath. Complete fresh protection from Close-Up.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industry, industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
All right, just still watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And just before we bring in our guests for our conversation this morning, which is on reviving cotton, textile, and garment industry, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Timothy Yusuf.
It is a consensus belief of many that reviving the cotton, textile and garment industry in Nigeria requires a multifaceted approach that addresses various challenges and leverages opportunities. They noted some revival strategies to consider to include cotton production revitalization, investment in textile mills, training and capacity building, market and infrastructure development. Experts have also listed benefits of revitalization of the cotton, textile and garment industry to include job creation, economic growth, cultural preservation, and increased competitiveness. However, there are challenges to overcome in revitalizing the cotton, textile, and garment industry. There are competition from imported goods, lack of access to finance, and infrastructure deficits. Meanwhile, in all of these, stakeholders have highlighted some opportunities for growth. There are growing demand for African textiles, potential for export, and government support. By addressing the challenges and leveraging the opportunities, Nigeria can revive its cotton, textile, and garment industry, promoting economic growth, job creation, and cultural preservation. In achieving all of these, experts are already set to speak to reviving cotton, textile, and garment industry in Nigeria on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report on reviving cotton, textile, and garment industry. We already have seated in the studio for our conversation on reviving cotton, textile, and garment industry. We have Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, SSA to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement. Good morning, Dr. Uzoma.
Good morning.
Welcome good to see you again. Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Also in the studio, we have the Are Agbegba Aje of Iwoye Ketu Land, Ogun State, and President, National Cotton Association of Nigeria, in the person. Sorry, I think let me get the name correctly now. Yeah, in the person of Chief Anibe Achimugo, PhD. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.
All right, also joining us for the conversation, but this time around from our Kano studio is Saidu Datijo Adama, Chairman Adama Textiles and Garment Industry. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Adama. Let's just stay with you there because we know that before 1997, Nigeria had the second largest textile industry in Africa with over 250 active factories, most of them in Lagos and also in the north, like Kano, Kaduna, and others. So actually, we just want to find out from you, what went wrong? What were the major challenges? How did we find ourselves at the state that we are right now?
Once again, good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, Honorable Senior Special Assistant, Dr. Uzoma. Happy meeting you again. And my respected son, Chief Amebe, To answer your question, I would want to say that the position we are today, or the sector is today, is still pitiful. But I have to start by appreciating the efforts of the past leaders of this country. Textile and garment, or CTG, cotton, textile and garment subsector of the economy, has suffered a lot more than people thought. And President Olusegun Obasanjo has started to revive the cotton, textile and garment. He was not able to conclude. There came President Eradua. He also put his hand there. President Jonathan also did a good job. President Muhammad Buhari did a good job. It didn't fail. All their efforts, I don't believe it is correct to say it is a failure. The present situation we are now is that we are at the teething period of concluding the job of the previous leaders. What we hope to see now is the concluding part by Mr. President of today, Chief Alhaji Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR. We are almost ready to see the conclusion. We are happy that they have started part of it by training people in various sectors, particularly the textile and garment. I have to confess that Adama Innovation Enterprises Institute, a subsidiary of Adama Textile and Garment Industry, a registered institute with National Board for Technical Education, is a beneficiary of the training program just concluded this December last year. So the position now is to see whether our prayer and advocacy will get the blessings of Mr. President. And I believe with the effort the Senior Special Assistant is doing since the last time we had similar discussion, I appreciate him so much that today we are talking of something else, a step forward from where we were. My presentation here is that the 70 billion naira inherited by Mr. President Muhammad Buhari from the fund they called at that time Textile Development Fund, which was established shortly after the lifting of ban on textiles. It was designed to cushion the negative effect of the importation. It was not designed, to the best of our knowledge, to be a loan. It was supposed to be a grant to cushion the effect of the textile sector. Now, the situation is that a lot of burden is on the textiles. And there is a lot of hope by government that we will continue to create employment to Nigerians. What we hope to see now is Mr. President will use that fund. I don't know how much is now there. We expect it to be about 1 trillion naira saving since that time, because 70 billion naira was at 10 years ago, and today we don't know what it is. If the money is still there, we pray, we hope, we lobby that the money will be floated into textile, cotton, and garment and clear the debt of all the textile mills so that they will start from a clean slate. The situation now is starting from a clean slate and holistic, as well as a situation whereby Nigerians will know that these textiles mills are now revived to start from a clean slate, and with a condition that any beneficiary of such benefit will certainly employ X number of youth in this country, will certainly use certain percentage, X percentage of locally sourced raw material, and efforts will be made to see that some cushioning effect is also given, or local governments that owns markets, government designate certain markets in the country that are supposed to be markets that will sell foreign and locally made textile mills. The way they call liberalization of trade in those days need to be revisited. We have to find out and know whether that position was endless or there was time limit. Government should please, for God's sake, find out the WTO agreement or whatever. Is it forever, or we have the time or the chance, government has the right to look into it? Who benefits that lifting of ban on textiles? Is it the foreign manufacturers of textile or Nigerians that benefit? Surely it's clear that that lifting of ban is benefiting foreigners. $6 billion worth of imports is a great threat to the economy. 10% of that amount is expected to be the revenue driven by the federal government, which is supposed to be injected into the system. That is the cotton, textile, especially textile and garment, as at that time, before the time we were opportuned to sit down and reframe the policy on textile. President Obasanjo needs to be commended because he gave us every listening ear. Though it took him time, he assigned his special assistant to go around all the industries in Nigeria. He visited all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adama. Thank you so much for your opening comments. Indeed, you have, said so much. And, of course, we'll get back to you, to make more comments. And, of course, much later in the conversation, you give your recommendations. But, one statement that you made, you said that previous efforts, to revive the CTG, talking about the cotton, textile, and garment industry in Nigeria, didn't fail. And my question would be, if it didn't fail, why did we surge from over 182 billion in imports of, clothing materials to over 377. So I'm thinking this huge gap. I mean, we import more these days. So if these efforts didn't fail, so why the increase in the importation of clothing materials in the country? And I'd like to get to you, Dr. Achimogo. Share with us, what really are the concerns? Why is this sector not booming as it should?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Good morning, Nigeria. I think that the textile sector, CTG sector, is actually a complex one, and it's a sector that has so much benefits, but at the same time needs to be midwifed properly, and there must be sustainability in every intervention. And I do recall that some of the interventions never really were sustained. Where you are, and if you don't approach the interventions in the CTG sector, value chain approach, if you don't take the value chain approach, then definitely you'll not achieve results. So where you are taking care of farmers and you forget about the ginners, or you are taking care of the ginners, you forget about the textile people or the garments, then you don't have synergy. And I remember in 2019, It was the first intervention that I recall that was a value chain intervention, where the farmers were gathered and the ginners were gathered and so on. And we had even ended up signing a memorandum of understanding with, the Uniform Services of Nigeria, meaning that they were encouraged to source their uniform fabrics from locally made fabrics, through. And that wasn't also sustained. It was only a one-year intervention, to be honest, when you look at it based on seasons. So I think that Alhaji Adama, my father, mentioned the fact that WTO. Now WTO, when we signed up, I think we just basically just allowed, the rules, of the WTO to weigh down on us, not thinking that we ought to also be deliberate about protecting our own industries. So you have smuggling that is a major concern, and the fact that the factors of production also, Nigeria uniquely, are also very high and very competitive. So when you talk about power, for instance, we all know the challenges with power, and without sustained power, you'd have problems in production. Also, most of the inputs that we require, either from farming or from the textile usage, are all imported. So you have that issue of FX, fluctuation, access to it, and so on and so forth. So I believe that those are the factors, when you put them together, that has caused the sector not to. And we think that maybe we have done so much intervention. We thank government, whether with President Obasanjo or the current administration that is looking into the CTG sector. They've identified that it's a very important sector. I always say that it should even be classified as a national asset because of the job creation potentials, the wealth creation potentials of it. And in fact, when we talk about teaming youths, if you can engage them in the CTG value chain, which is very wide, there's no aspect of cotton that is wasted. For instance, if you produce 1 ton of cotton, that is all year round employment for 6 persons. So if you ramp it up to 1 million, we're talking 6 million. That's only cotton production. So I think that we're on the right track in the sense that, I always say that if you have a problem, the first way of dealing with your problem is identifying that you have a problem in the first instance. And I think government has done that. Even the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment recently called us, to have a brainstorm about the challenges in the sector and all that. They will remain. But the point is that how do we reduce it? Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We must continue to knock on the door. And the industry players that have spent so much time, energy, resources, that have been dogged about ensuring that this sector does not collapse, need to be commended, need to be supported.
You said we should continue to knock on the door of the CTG sector.
Yes.
And my question would be, this knock, would it ever lead to the door being opened? Because so much has been spent so far in trying to revitalize the sector. But like from what you've said and what we can see, not much progress has been made. Is it that investment has been in the wrong places? Or you think that the investment has not been channeled on what actually can bring back the sector alive?
Well, like I said to you, that the intervention needs to be a value chain intervention. You cannot leave one part of the CTG sector untouched.
What has been the focus by previous administration? What has been the focus?
Well, for instance, I can tell you that one of the interventions, which was 100 billion naira that was set aside for the CTG sector when it was initiated, it talked about the textile, it talked about the ginneries, the processors, but it never talked about the farmers that are producers of the raw material, which is a bedrock resource for the CTG sector. So I think that, again, like I said, if you look at the attendant benefits of the CTG sector, and you can check across the world. If you look at Bangladesh, for instance, they are doing over $38 billion. They have a textile ministry. If you look at India, likewise. So the point I'm making is that it must be a deliberate intervention. It is not a sector that you think that whatever you put in is wasted. We are currently doing over $6 billion of import of textile products that we can generally produce and we have the infrastructure to produce. Doesn't make sense. And for, like I said, the job creation potentials of it, the wealth creation potentials of it, this is a sector that needs to be deliberate. And I keep advising where I have the opportunity that we look at what we have that has a wide value chain that engage numerous Nigerians. If you look at rubber, for instance, I'm crossing, yes, rubber, you look at palm, and you look at cotton. These are three critical crops, commodity crops that if we concentrate on them, you will revolutionize industry or industrialization in Nigeria. So, and of course, these things, like I said, you must sustain it. You can't, you know, I always say that if, as a parent, you have a child that is in school and the child doesn't do well in his or her exams, it would be unfair for you as a parent to withdraw him and say, you know, you don't have a second chance to go for a repeat exam and so on and so forth. So it's a critical sector, and I think that government has identified that, and that is what we must work on and ensure that we bring everybody on board. We create the synergy that is required in the sector to enable it to give the results that we're expecting.
No doubt it is a critical sector that government is concerned about. Yeah. Let's bring in the SSA to the president. I know you've been listening to the other contribution from our other guests, but I actually still wanted to let us establish what exactly went wrong, you know, since 1997, you know, just like we said earlier, that we had a booming, you know, textile and cotton and garment industry. But all of a sudden, they just faded out like that, especially in Lagos and also in Kano, Kaduna and all that. What exactly was the problem? How did we get to where we are now before we now look at the effort of government to revive the industry?
Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, and thank you for having me again. I think this will be the third time I've been here to talk about the rebuilding and revitalization of Nigerian cotton, textile and garment industry. I call it reshoring because the problem was outsourcing, importation, dependence on imported commodities.
Okay.
So that's totally because it was functioning, was at its maximum capacity. It started, the downward spiral started by lack of investment on the very basic foundation of the industry, which is farming. We stopped investing in the development of new seed varieties. The Samcots were the last Samcots, 20-something, the last, and that was in 1988, the last variety released. So, secondly, like he talked about, the WTO framework, we weren't, you know, prepared to withstand the pressure from highly productive countries, high population, like China, like Vietnam, like India. They saw Nigeria as the largest market in Africa, and then the projection of growth was tilted towards Africa. And because 1 in every black man is in Nigeria, Nigeria is a high income society relative to other African nations. So when you have these twin factors of high income because of the massive natural resources, export base, and then the high population, it definitely would be a target market. So India, China, Vietnam, they all targeted, and you and I know, they have longer history than us. China has more than 5,000 years history. So the economy of China was bigger, the labor force higher than ours when they joined WTO and all this. But let's not dwell on the past. The interest should be the future.
what is government doing? If you look at Bangladesh, I will not use China now. I will use other countries of similar socioeconomic dynamics like Nigeria, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia. What have they done? They have followed a similar trajectory. One, setting up a high-level ministerial committee, which is what Mr. Anibe he has been pushing, and with our help, we told him that, look, we need the complete buy-in of the national and the subnational. The national, the president is very much in tune, supportive of every framework, every policy drive to revive, to rebuild and revitalize this all-important sector. But we needed the buy-in of the states because the land belongs to the states. And you cannot start the process of rebuilding and revitalization of the sector without talking at the very basic foundation. I will give you an instance. In Bangladesh, they started with this high-level ministerial committee. Then they have the advisory committee made up of government and the private sector. Then they talked about the raw materials, resource allocation for the cultivation of cotton and also provision of high-yielding and drought and disease-resistant cotton varieties. Then they talked about access to raw materials, other raw materials, chemicals, dyes that cannot be produced there. Then you moved further. The fiscal policy, tax exemptions, tax holidays, concessions, rapid depreciation of assets and writing off debts, infrastructural provision. This is the only government in this country that has followed through on that. The Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone. It has the phase 1 has 8 states. In fact, we've just commissioned the foundation laying ceremony in Kaduna and then in Cross River. We'll be moving to Oyo, to Imo, to FCT, to Kano. And then the second phase, Mr. Vice President went to the Iowa Des Moines, and we had a very productive meeting with the president of African Development Bank that's indicating another $1 billion loan, but they have increased the envelope to around $2.something billion to spread across the special agro-industrial processing zone across additional 24 states in the federation, making it 32 states, including FCT.
Okay.
So that's the infrastructural provision. Beyond that, you move ahead the Textile Development Fund. I'm giving you sequential policy dynamics that led to the miracle of Bangladesh CTG sector. So the Cotton Textile Development Fund, that is what the CTG board that you presented, and their prayers were all granted with the support of the Vice President, who is the chairman of the National Economic Council, 100%. And he wouldn't have given you the support without the buy-in, the total support, the propping of Mr. President that this has to be delivered. Secondly, after that, you now look at the trade factors. Back-to-back LC. This is where the central bank, together with the customs, with the Nigerian Post Authorities, will step in to work. The bonded warehousing system. All the different trade instruments that government is planning to deliver on to make sure we revive this sector. And let me tell you something that is very unique. This is once in a lifetime opportunity for us to revive the sector. I will give you an instance. Chinese export of cotton, textile, garment, apparel was more than 300 billion in 2024. But the total exports to US of garments and its accessories is $159 billion. Bangladesh exports of apparels alone to US is $9.7 billion. Vietnam exports is $17.5 billion. What is the current tariff regime under Trump? Vietnam, 46%. Exports of apparels, I'm not talking about the associated, because when you put the associated, it's more than 25. But let's just stick on the apparels alone, 17.5. Tariff is 46%. What of Bangladesh? 37. what is the export of apparel alone? $9.7 billion. The combined total of this is more than a quarter of just the apparel, because I'm talking of the apparel alone. Apparel is $110 billion. But when you put the accessories, it's more than $200 billion. It's the largest market. And more than 70% of the imports in the US are from these high tariff countries. Vietnam, Bangladesh, India, China. China 34. So we are sitting, even the Nigerian private sectors, investors, listening to me now. This is the golden era for us to revive this sector, create jobs, bring in FX. You can imagine if Nigeria can just tap into 10% of this. It's additional $10 billion. And the current exchange rate is trillions, more than 10 trillion naira. And you know the number of Nigerians that will be employed directly and indirectly. The total socioeconomic revitalization of our farming communities, of Kanu, of Katsina, of Aba, of Lagos, of Kanu, all this Ibadan, all these major CTG clusters in the country will all benefit. And the good thing is that all these states I've mentioned, they have keyed into the laudable program of the federal government, the special agro-industrial processing zone. And we are redesigning it to make special provision for the infrastructural requirement of this very all-important sector, so that we will present it as infrastructural benchmark for the potential investors, the Chinese investors, the Walmarts, the Vietnamese investors, because it's now become very difficult for them to compete within the American market at the current tariff regime instituted by President Trump. So, Mr. President, who is a technocrat, a politician, a businessman, a man of bold ideas, had seen this very big once in a lifetime opportunity to drive our FS earning, diversify our economy, provide jobs for our teeming youth, recatalyze the livelihood of our people in the rural communities, in the farming communities, has keyed into that. That is why he has mandated us to look into ways to see that now that the opportunity had presented itself, we key into it, we tap into it, we utilize it, we exploit it, we make it to the benefit of this
Thank you very much, Dr. Uzoma. We agree with you. Of course, this is a very key sector. And, you know, there's no point going very far, quoting countries like China and the rest. Right here in Africa, we have examples that Nigeria can take a cue from. Ethiopia, Mauritius is there, Morocco, South Africa, and of course, you want to also mention Egypt. Now, from all that you have said and listening to Dr. Achimogu, I'm thinking, what makes you confident that all of this is not just talk, it will actually materialize to the revitalization of the sector if the power sector is not fixed?
Well, I can tell you, you just mentioned faraway countries. We have our neighbor here, Benin Republic. The Arise Integrated Industrial Platform, they have a CTG hub in an EPS, Export Processing Zone. Mr. Vice President has gotten the approval of Mr. President to go. We have been interfacing with the leadership. Mr. Soren had been coming to our office looking at a different policy framework to make it easy for them to also set up, because they had seen the opportunity, not even export, the internal consumption. And this was prior to the Trump tariff that had put all these major CTG countries at a huge disadvantage. Nigeria tariff is 14%. Labor cost is lower. And also electricity tariff is cheaper in Nigeria than in all these countries. Very cheap. If I show you the chart, Nigeria is at the top. But the problem is now, the Arise IPP platform, their EPZ in Benin Republic, they are building and about to commission a 100 megawatt solar power plant to power the entire activities within the EPZ, and also to give other companies that have rented space within that zone, provide them with cheap, free, renewable energy, and also push the country at the forefront of getting carbon credits. So Nigeria, in terms of solar radiation profile, Nigeria sits as a much stronger because of the less humidity here. So, and they are ready to do that. So we should stop dwelling on the challenges. What are the levers? The gaps, the levers. The gap you think is power. The lever is there. Now, solar energy is now price competitive with fossil fuel energy. And Nigeria is sitting at the solar belt, solar profile that is comparable to no other country on planet Earth. So we have to leverage that, power the entire SAPZ, and the CTG subcomponent that are going to be housed within the SAPZ. And that is why the SAPZ is providing infrastructure. And one of the critical infrastructure, roads, power, security. That's what that facility from African Development Bank is meant to do. And it is government's own duty to interface, to do the complete value chain mapping and identify the key actors and players within Nigeria and within the US market. I'm not even talking about the European market, because the European market, and again, logistics distance between Nigeria and the North America is closer. So the shipping cost, the logistic cost is lesser. Then Europe is also the second largest consumer market for these products. Nigeria, you have the GSP, Generalized Scheme of Preferences. Nigeria is currently on the GSP standard, but we are working to pivot Nigeria into GSP Plus, where there is zero tariff to European markets for all CTG products. So if we get that, we also have very short window, shipping distance from Nigeria to Europe, which is way cost competitive relative to the Asian market. Again, the EPA, European Partnership Agreement, the president had instructed our trade negotiators from the Foreign Affairs, from the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, from the Central Bank to see that we finalize together, because that also gives us zero tariff exports to the European market. And let me tell you, because China is a geopolitical competitor to the European Union, the likelihood of them being comfortable to import from Nigeria is very maximized with this current, because China, the lack of access with the current 245% tariff now, it started from 34 to 245, so it's completely shut out of the US market. They will look for where to dump it. That is why it's important that you have a very tech savvy, business oriented, with maximum operational knowledge of how business works, both in the accounting and the banking. Remember, the president is an accountant, the vice president is a banker. So you have very perfect marriage. Dr.
Osama,
that will take advantage of this tariff to displace and replace some of the exports in this major market, the US, and also take advantage of the GSP Plus, Generalized Scheme of Preferences, in the European market, and also round up agreements under the European Partnership Agreement, EPA, so that we have maximized multi-diversified market for our CTG while we are trying to develop it, so that we don't just develop it and don't have the market.
Very well said. Very well said, Dr. Ozama. In trying to answer the question, of course, you talked about, the benefits in reviving the sector. It's not like we're dwelling on the challenges, but we must talk about the issues that have led to this sector going down in the first place. Because if you don't solve some of these challenges, of course, you can't get it to boom. You already tried to deal with the power sector by talking about solar and all of that. But let's talk about the farmers, because that's also another critical aspect Dr. Achimogu raised. That's been a major challenge. How do you intend, to get those farmers, to go back, to the farms and get optimum yield, considering you already mentioned that security being a challenge at the moment?
Well, I've always been of this view. In Nigeria, we keep on talking about security. The mantra should be productivity enhancement. I will give you an instance. The some cut varieties you have will give you barely 250 to 300 kilograms per hectare. But the new variety, Mexico, BT, cotton, is GMO cotton, will give you close to 2 tons. So it means that farming 1 hectare with this improved variety, BT cotton, is equivalent to 10 hectares of the outdated, because varietal improvement is not what happens in 1 year, 2 years. The lifespan of Mr. President's administration will be 8 years, and it's not enough to even develop a variety. So while would you just rely on that, while you're, empowering the research community to go ahead to begin to work on varietal improvement, the IAR, Zaria, has been under mandate to do that. The National Biotechnology Development, NABDA, is also working on that. But we have to leverage or the already existing list, and that is why the interface and engagement with the developers of these varieties are there. And federal government is working on how to bring them, getting the necessary phytosanitary approvals to bring them in. So when you bring in this thing, if you want 1 million tons with the SAMCOT, you will need nearly 5 million hectares. But that 1 million ton with this one, you need around 500,000 hectares. So you will now find, I'm not saying that that's why I say we should stop emphasizing on the problem. Yes, the problem is there. You don't pursue the problem alone. You have to use, multi-dimensional, two-pronged approach. While you try to bring the security situation under control, you also try to leverage technology to make sure that you offset the losses as a result of the technology, as a result of the insecurity in the interim and for the foreseeable future. So that while you still have very limited area accessible, that limited area accessible with improved technology will even give you 4 to 5 times more than what you would have gotten if the insecurity is not there. That is why the president is taking a two-pronged approach to tackling this problem, not only for cotton, but for all other crop varieties, even for the livestock. Our current animal breeds with during dry season barely produces 1 liters per day, but let's be very generous to give it 1.5 liters. But you also have other varieties, other breeds of cattle. Girilando, a cross between the Frisian and the Waiful and the Zebu, developed them, but it took them 50 years to get all the genetic markers and indicators to the level they wanted. It gets an average 26 liters a day, and Max had the world record of 124 liters per day. So we are not like saying, okay, we must rely the president, that's why he created the Ministry of Livestock. We will not say, oh, we must rely to take 20, 50 years to develop our cattle varieties and also the insecurity that is inherent within the sector. He is taking a bold idea, bold step, trying to develop the national breeding listing so that you work two-pronged approach. While you try to curb the insecurity, the nomadism, you also try to enhance it with technology that has already been done, paid for and spent by other countries, moving them together so you work harmoniously with a bold vision in the interim. That's short term, mid term, and long term. In the mid term, in the short term, is bringing in these improved varieties, BT cotton, trying to mainstream them, trying to engage with our farmers and let them know of the right agronomic practices to grow them, because it's completely different from others. And in the short term, mid term, long term, working harmoniously with the security agencies, with the state government, with the religious institutions, with traditional institutions to enhance and improve security situation within the farming community. So at the end of the day, everybody will be happy.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Uzoma there. I mean, you have highlighted a lot of government policies and initiatives to revive, the sector, and also the need for how you're trying to leverage your technology actually to bring up modernization of that sector. Let's go to Kano, to where Mr. Adama is. Mr. Adama, we have talked, I mean, so far we have highlighted government policies and several initiatives actually to revive the sector. What about the issue of tariffs and trade policies? How can it be adjusted, to protect, the local manufacturers and also to revive? Is government doing a lot, in that area? What do you want government to do when it comes to tariffs and trade policies? I think we're having some audio challenge from Kano studio. Probably when he's corrected, we'll be back. Let's come back to the studio. Chief Achimugu, maybe I should just direct that question to you. Let's look at the issue of tariffs. How can tariffs and trade policy be adjusted to protect local manufacturers?
Well, I think first and foremost, it is an opportunity. That's the way I look at it with the tariffs that are going on. And Dr. Uzoma has mentioned that we still have a huge advantage when you compare to other producing textile nations. I also think that there's a need for us to sit down with ourselves and look at how can we make ourselves highly competitive. Yes, we're talking about our own internal markets in the first instance. And we talk about West Africa, we talk about generally Africa before we even talk about global. How do we ensure that tariffs that we impose on ourselves, duties that we impose? For instance, I mentioned earlier that a lot of the inputs that are required would have to come from other producing countries that we don't produce. Maybe we have a potential to produce them, but currently we're not producing them.
Okay.
How do we ensure that bringing access to them, bringing them in, will still make us competitive against the Chinese or against the Bangladeshi and so on and so forth? So there's a lot of, I think, wiggling that we need to do within our framework of the customs and even the taxes, which I think the government is also, with the tax reforms, are trying to ensure that these are not multiple taxes that we have to face and contend with, even at the subnational levels and so on and so forth. So I believe that work needs to be done. I believe that what the government has done recently, which is the approval for the Cotton, Textile and Garment Development Board, that is the idea of it anyway, that we will sit down and be able to address under one roof, one umbrella, all these issues that will benefit our industry players.
All right, many thanks, Dr.
Can I chip in? That City Development Board is similar today. The first phase in Bangladesh, the high-level ministerial committee, the advisory committee comprising of government and business. So that's similar. That will be the the benchmark to develop the right policy trust to guide the development, sustainable development of this sector. And with respect to the tariff, we now have the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So we are going to vigorously work to leverage it to in-source raw materials. We already have the infrastructural already existing. So what it requires is just to rebuild and revitalize those existing infrastructures and then expand, leveraging the platform provided by the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone, which is spearheaded by this administration.
All right, many thanks, Dr. Uzoma. Let's quickly get responses from our viewers watching. By the way, if you want to send in your comments, questions, or suggestions, you're free to send via text message or WhatsApp. The number is 0816 968 8126. The number again, 0816 968 8126. It is also displayed on your screen, so we look forward to seeing your messages. We already have some messages here. Just to take a look at some that we have. This one says, good morning, my name is Mark Idoko. I want to ask, is the industry still working? All right, that's what we're talking about, how to revitalize it. Many thanks. The next one says, the revitalization of Nigeria's textile and garment industry under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is a positive step. It's concerning that Nigeria currently spends over $6 billion on textile imports from Asia. This investment could significantly boost the country's economy if channeled locally. To ensure the initiative's success, it's crucial for the government to maintain momentum and avoid the pitfalls of previous efforts that were started but not sustained. Consistent support and policy implementation will be key to reviving this sector and reducing reliance on foreign goods.
I have this. Then we have this one from Ehiwa from Abuja. It said, I agree with your guests that government needs to look into our garment industry as it is also part of skill acquisition for the youth. Please ask him how many garment industry do we have in Nigeria and where are they located? Are the staff working there? Is the government planning on bringing this garment industry back to life? Well, that's our discussion. Maybe you'll respond to some of those questions.
All right, another
and
one here.
And then the second one, Thank you for bringing this issue to the front seat. Nigeria has all it takes to clothe itself. What is lack is misgovernment. I grew up to know how textile industry absorbed thousands of Nigerian workers. Wahone Textile Mill in Obakra and Ikeja runs 3 shifts. Same goes for Westex and so many other companies there. The level of idleness was very minimal, and there was order in the society. Let government completely ban importation of textile. Let government tell Nigeria what Jawal Nuru told India when they complained on banning of imported textile materials from majority Lancashire in UK. If Indians cannot clothe themselves, let them go naked. That's what he said. Today, India is a known player in the textile world. If Nigeria cannot clothe themselves, let us go naked too. Let there be 5 to 10 textile mills in each geopolitical zones. Quality may not be perfect at one set, but we'll get it better later. Maybe you want to respond to some of these reactions.
You know, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came in. I've not known him. He's a major player. He's the chairman of the president of the Cotton Association of Nigeria. They've been trying to get attention, a high-level attention. They've been trying to be admitted into the International Cotton Advisory Committee, which is like the UN of cotton or the OPEC of cotton, as a platform to help them in gaining access to market and reforming policy framework in tune with the existing geopolitical and market dynamics. So he was there. He saw they were able to come. They were invited by the vice president to come. And in that, we gathered all the major stakeholders. The CBN was there, the Customs CG, the Post Authority. And you can tell them what was the custom. Just 1 minute, tell them what was the custom they say when people complained on smuggling. Just what did he say?
Oh, the customs, they try to...
This, at the highest level, this Controller General of Nigerian Customs, the Central Bank Governor, some governors, Raw Material Research Institute, Federal Industrial Research District, Biotechnology, all the relevant, parts of government that are required to drive this thing holistic. And like he said, it must be a value chain approach from debt to fashion, from farm to fashion. So government is doing, it's not just, Mr. President does not believe in, throwing away things. He needs to have a background, a framework. And the first foundation had been achieved by getting the endorsement of the governors at the National Economic Council for the establishment of the CTG Development Board. That is the first step, which has never been done in this country before. Every of these developing countries that have transformed from a major import to a huge export had all followed this same trajectory. You must have an anchor. You must have a meeting point, intersection point for the government and the private sector, the farmers, the religious organization, the civil society organization, for them, because government does not own all the ideas. So, Mr. President, I've been having meetings with the Central Bank special team on this.
Okay.
Next week or next 2 weeks, the Vice President will be traveling to Benin Republic to see what Arise is doing within the cotton export processing zone, so that being the person championing that the President had delegated to champion to make sure that the special agro industrial processing zone we are developing across the nation does not just become another Tenape. That he will take learnings from there to come back, retweak, rewrite, redraft the operational modalities of that to accommodate the very basic, unique peculiarities of the CTG sector, so that it will be very attractive for the private sector to come in. So government is working to revive this.
Okay, government is working to revive it. We just pause there as we go for a break. When we come back, we will continue with the conversation. Stay with us.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services.
And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has if it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system, where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Our guest is still very much with us, and of course we're talking about revitalization of the cotton, textile and garment industry. Now time to get to our guest in our Kano studio. I hope the connection is much better. Alhaji Seidu Datajo Adama, if you can hear me, you know, as we begin to round up the conversation, I'd like you to speak to us about the kind of policies you'd like to see government, you know, come up with that would, you know, help all this, I mean, in seeing that the CTG sector actually comes back up on stream.
Quickly and briefly, one of the major policies we would appeal and advocate to the government is to make sure that Nigerian textile industry have a minimum of 30% market share in the first 3-5 years. Whatever we will do to make sure that our Nigerian market is for Nigerian industries. It doesn't help government to stop crime. It doesn't help government to create peace. It doesn't help government if you allow your borders open, if you allow to import everything. Surely we cannot employ people with some conditions of IMF. Allowing everything to be dumped in Nigerian soil is wrong. Kindly, please, kindly sit down with IMF. What can we do to reduce importation of even sometimes substandard textile fabric? Sometimes if you go to Kori market in Kano, you will see ordinary plastic sheet, if they call it textile. Braba, they call it textile. And people buy it, and it affects their health. It affects the health of the skin. Medical doctors always complain. And our local people in the rural areas complain about, but it is very cheap, affordable to them. Make us produce affordable textile material made of 100% Nigerian cotton from Nigerian farmers, and make new policies that will encourage markets, traders to sell Nigerian products. Make it a bit difficult for people to just import like that. Make it mandatory to pay that levy. That levy we're talking about, textile development levy. Continue to collect it, reduce the importation by whatever technicalities, and then flood the money into the textile and CTG. Plot the money. Reduce the burden of present textile mills by using that fund. The fund is made to reduce the burden, to cushion the negative effect. Use it, stop the loan, pay off the loan with that fund. Then we start afresh. We are comfortable, or will be comfortable, with the conditions of employment, with the conditions of using locally raw material, locally sourced raw material like cotton. We can still use our people. I have said it in the past that the Nigerians, 100,000 Nigerians, present administration has so far trained as at last December, just some 4 months ago, are yet to be employed. Who will employ them? We, the Nigerian industries, are supposed to employ them. They cannot be self-reliant for now. So kindly float that money so that we can engage these idle, trained youth. I was opportune to train over 200. 2 weeks ago, ITF revisited our industry. They inspected the expansion of training center. We are now going to the second level of training. How can we continue training these youths without engaging them? And the money to do that is there available. So it's only the implementation of the policies sometimes delays. The implementation should be speedy. I agree with the special advisor. Excuse me, I'm a bit coughing. I agree with the suggestion of the special advisor that high-level technical committee or whatever committee be involved. If we can have a very high level committee that will be supervising the whole training program under ITF that will be injected into the system of textile, cotton and garment, especially textile, with the employees of labor directly. Kindly make that kind of committee with some small subcommittees that will be going around to see what do we have on ground. The situation is we talk mostly on paper. We invite the authorities to please come and visit our industries. See it by yourself. Can we be revived? Even the question is, can we be revived? We are sure we have the potentials. We can be revived. Do we have the market? Yes, we have the market. What next? Do we have the money? Yes, there is the money. Do we need to do it? There is the political will to do it. The problem is the implementation. So that committee, Senior Special Assistant is talking about, is really a must and commendable. What I will suggest that the policy we are implementing now, I was part and parcel of designing some of the past policies, but the implementation is where we have problem. Kindly involves all the stakeholders at every stage. Let us have representation in every stage of any committee, so that the whole issue, the whole essence of revival will be achieved. No gap should be given. This time around, we want to start from a clean slate. The money is there. 10% of $6 billion is equivalent to 6 billion naira. That is what we expect to be on ground now from the Textile Development Levy. If such amount is there, let us know, plot it and give us a bailout or whatever you call it. If it's not there, whatever little thing is there, use it. Then continue to implement the deduction or the taxation of that fund. And then you build whatever infrastructure there had been, special advisor had been mentioning, to copy the advanced countries in reviving the textile sector. It is hopeful. The sector is not hopeless. It can create jobs. The insecurity we are talking about can be tackled through job creation. The insecurity we are talking about, sometimes use the money in keeping the security to create job. Use the money to produce cotton. Use the money to provide some necessary finishing machine. We are lacking 3 things right now. Most of our industries are lacking 3 things. That is the finishing of our fabric. The texture of our fabric is first class. Let Nigerians know that Nigerian textile mills can now produce high quality of textile products of certain kind of texture. Second, so the finishing is what we need to improve. The value addition also we need to value, and we need to import the machines that will do that. And then the packaging. Our packaging in garmenting is really below competitive standard. Kindly help us with that money to import right machineries for packaging, for finishing, for value addition. Once we will add...
Thank you very much, Mr. Datijo Adama. You have raised a lot of issues here, and which I know that government is taking note of. You've talked about the issue of quality and substandard products, and also that the products should be made affordable and accessible, and also to engage the youth, in terms of this issue of security issue, implementation, for immediate implementation of government policies to reduce, then high-level committee, just like you suggested, then the visits that the government need to visit the industries to see the situation of things and the issue of finishing, value, and packaging. Now, Chief Achimogo, I want you to also maybe you should just need to just highlight, the immediate steps that you think government should take, to kickstart the industry.
Well, thank you. I think the immediate step has been taken, and which is just like Doctor has mentioned, and I think is in the news already, that the government, the NEC, which is involving the subnationals, which is key, have approved the establishment of a cotton, textile, and garment development board. And our idea behind it is to streamline, is to bring under one umbrella, one roof, all issues pertaining to the CTG sector. And that we also advocated for that board to be private sector driven, meaning industry players driven. There, we wear the shoe, we know where it pinches. Okay. Of course, we can't do it without government. So government must also be part of it. And I think that a lot is going to be done, a lot will be achieved through this umbrella. Because we now finally say we have a seat on the table and we can basically contribute to the direction of where the sector is going.
So you are saying that the stakeholders and the manufacturers, policymakers, consumers, all need to work together to achieve these.
Oh yes, certainly. So far and beyond, the value chain, so to speak, even the consumers. Thank you for mentioning that, because actually we are producing for them. So it is a good idea that we also have their input in what to produce, so that the market, like I said, for the producers and all that will be available. And the second thing I think that is equally important is the bedrock raw material, which is the seed cotton, which is the cultivation of cotton. It doesn't make sense that whatever we do today, we are importing cotton from our neighboring countries or whatever, when we have the potentials. The comparative advantage that Nigeria has still exists. In fact, above other countries, we were number one at one point in Africa. Today, we are playing catch-up instead of them playing catch-up, because we have developed our industry by value addition. We had a robust textile sector, and we were supplying the West Africa up to Central Africa and so on and so forth. So I think that we need to get, and that is the key to the success, I believe, the sustainable success of the CTG sector. So we have to look at our seeds. We have to support the IAR, Institute of Agricultural Research, Zaria. They have the national mandate. Now, they are lacking funding, to develop new varieties, to even safeguard the current varieties that we have. Just a little correction, Doctor. The intrinsic qualities of the SAMCOS are good. On average, they ought to be able to give you 2 tons. But point is, where are the certified seeds? If you are looking for those quantities, you are not getting them. And then we're talking of the introduction of BT. I believe that farmers should have a choice, or Nigerians should have a choice, whether you want to use conventional seeds or BT. That BT is a game changer, and it's used across the world. And we're talking a minimum of 2 tons. Okay. All things being equal, you can even get up to 3.5 to 4 tons from that seed. So, and then the modeling around how to produce sustainably is very important. Like I said, mentioned earlier, we're looking at this contiguous farmland approach, whereby we will be able to, and we must mechanize. And the best way to do that is not when farmers are scattered everywhere, but where you can bring them together, cluster farming. You have a central farm that would provide all the necessary training, all the inputs, and the mechanization part. Today in Nigeria, for instance, if we're talking of producing 1 million metric tons, it is near impossible to be able to produce and harvest that. Okay. So we need mechanization. There's not a single harvest equipment for cotton in Nigeria as we speak. So yeah, it's a lot that we need to do, but I think that the first step government, and I want to use this opportunity to thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In his manifesto, he mentioned cotton, he mentioned a textile. So this is coming to life. I also want to thank the Vice President, the Chair of the National Economic Council. In fact, it was such a wonderful time for us. We got in there, we did our presentation, and just 2-3 governors spoke, and they gave us approval. And this is something that we've been looking for more than 20 years, and it was done. So we are grateful on behalf of the CTG sector players. I humbly offer our appreciation to the government of the day.
All right, many thanks, Dr. Chivogo. But while you quote the yields of the seeds, I hope you have factored the effects of climate change in all of this. But let's look at some of the messages that we have. We've got some responses from our viewers. This one says, good morning, gentlemen and lady. My name is Johnson. I'd like to counter Dr. Ozoma's point about production and security. I believe the key to improving productivity in our country is strengthening our security. Is it safe for farmers to go to their farms these days? The states that are major food and agricultural producers, such as Benue, Ondo, Enugu, and Edo, are currently under attack. So how can we make food production more efficient and cost-effective for the country? We'll just quickly run through all the questions so that you can respond to them at a blow. This one here says, the textile industry in Nigeria was once a thriving sector, employing over 80% of Nigerian youths in the early 80s to early 2000s. However, the industry's decline has been significant. Power supply is crucial for industries like textile to flourish. Additionally, insecurity in cotton-producing areas may have contributed to the industry's downfall. All right, Demola, you have some there. This one here says, thank God the government is thinking deeply into various areas of agriculture. My suggestion is rather than deploying security men to cover VIPs in Nigeria, I think that's what he's trying to say here. The security personnel should be made available to Nigerian populace and known farmers in Nigeria. That alone will scare away bandits and criminals and kidnappers that are busy attacking farmers and raping our poor old mothers in the farming communities in Nigeria. Free of charge, because the farmers at the moment are contributing in paying the security personnel salary. This is one of the best ways to tackle this madness of insecurity we talk about every day. This is from High Chief Sir Joel Kenneth Udoka, CEO, Jesse Joel Farms Limited.
Okay, let me just take these two responses. It's like, good morning. Your today's program is quite good. The essay to the president needs to know that agriculture is done in the field, not in the office. The key issue before all your efforts should focus on the farmers. You need to engage them more. They own these farms. They own the resources. When you get them on board, all your policies can flow. That's from Dr. Abubakar Rumel. Then let me just take this one more so that you can respond to some of this. So, good morning. May I humbly ask how we as a nation can go from mere rhetorics, academic, theoretical solution to practical implementation level? Because I believe that's our problem in this country. Because I believe that is our problem in this country, and that's from Akim Oladuni from Aguda Surilere. Okay, maybe.
Thank you all for I can see one uniform recurring thing in
Yes.
security. I never say security is not a problem, but however, you cannot say because there is insecurity today and other things you will do to enhance production, you will not do that. If we have both productivity enhancement and the security, perfect 100% situation. But while you continue to, work to tackle the insecurity, which had been there before this administration. So you also have to work on other things that you used to offset. The losses from, area expansion can also be, recovered with productivity enhancement. I will give you an instance. If you have 1 million hectares of maize in Nigeria, where the average farmer's field is 1.5, but let's be very generous, give 2 tons. And then you have another 500,000 hectares where you have productivity enhancement. So 2 tons times 1 million is 2 million tons. And then you have 500,000 hectares where you are getting 6 tons. It's 3 million. If you have another 500,000 hectares or 250,000 hectares, which is 1/4 but you are getting 8 tons, it's 2 million. So while you are working to enhance security, you should also work to enhance this other side of the factor, which is productivity enhancement. That is why the president, in other administration, the focus had always been on tackling the insecurity. But the president is taking a bold step, 2-pronged approach, tackling the insecurity and putting all the factors that will enhance productivity. That leads me to the second factor. the other factors to enhance productivity. You talked about Samcot. Why Samcot may not be? Because when Samcot was developed, the climatic conditions that it was, the genes were adaptable to, had already changed. So that is why no matter what you do, you will not be able to get that enhanced productivity. Remember that time we don't have in-season drought. For the past 5 years, we've been having back-to-back in-season drought. That is why government is investing huge amount of money under the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund for the first time.
All right.
Irrigation. Just give me 1 minute. Irrigation.
It looks like we're going to have part 2 of this program because we're out of time today.
Let me finish. Just irrigation is a component that is required. You know, that is the major problem that is driving down productivity in Nigeria is in-season drought. So federal government is investing massively on irrigation under the Irrigate Nigerian project, under the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund, and then mechanization. This has been in the works for the past 10 years. The Green Imperative Project, it has been approved. So it is the approach of government integrated capital, non-financial support, grants, loan guarantees, loans and investment. Government can only provide grants. You have 5 components in the integrated capital.
Dr. Asuma, we're going to
you take advantage of that loan to get these harvesters. Government cannot provide harvesters to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to have part 2 of this program because it looks like you have not exhausted all that you need to let us know about the CTG sector. Many thanks, Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, Associate to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement. It was a pleasure to have you. And of course, part 2, you will be here. Also, would like to appreciate Chief Anibe Achimogo. Yes, PhD, DRA. Agbegba Aje of Iwoye. Ketuland, Ogun State.
There is no PhD in my name.
Okay, but there's no PhD. Oh, wow, great. No PhD, President, National Cotton Association of Nigeria. Many thanks for joining us. So your PhD is waiting.
Yes, waiting.
You need to go and get it.
Practical
of
PhD.
course, we also like to appreciate Seidu Datujo Adama, Chairman Adama Textiles and Garment Industries. Thank you so much, sir, for being our guest. We appreciate you. So that's the much time will permit us today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ian Ray John, Level Locked on NTA.
And I'm Ademola. You do have a wonderful day.